ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive.
It is Tuesday, July 11th. Your drive begins now. ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. We're here until 6 o'clock. We're going to get those texts in this hour, 304-396-TALK. That is 304-396-8255. We've been having some interesting days around here, keeping up, trying to figure out who said what, who did what with the Bob Huggins saga. This is getting ridiculous, is it not? Absolutely ridiculous. If you have, I guess the best way to describe this is if you have such a series of missteps in your career, there's no way you're going to be able to recover from this that are self-inflicted. And, of course, Bob Huggins firing back, doubling down, saying, look, I didn't resign. I didn't resign. I want to finish out. I want to be the head coach. I'm employed by the university. University's firing back. No, you resigned. So that's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. It says coach is going to stay in rehab, which I hope is the truth here. I really want to see him get all the help he can get. And I'm not playing favorites. I want to see anyone get help. If you're in a situation similar to this, I want to see you get help. And so if you can get yourself back to a point where things make sense and you can function and not have these problems in your life, whatever those problems may be, I hope he gets his help. But as it stands right now, this is ridiculous how this is playing out. His legacy is on fire right now. What legacy will he be known for? Will it be his basketball successes? And maybe down the line, you might remember him a little bit more for those basketball successes. Or is he going to be remembered for all of these missteps and all of these allegations and all of these problems that he's bringing upon himself to some degree? And, of course, the whole Bob Huggins is at war with West Virginia University, that narrative, no one saw that coming. And so we'll talk more about it today. I've got coming on the show here in the next few minutes. I'm looking forward to this. Friend of the program from the Cincinnati Enquirer. It's been a long time coming. We've been trying to get him on, but been looking for like a good reason to get him on. And that is from the Cincinnati Enquirer, Jason Williams. And so he's going to join us on the program here in a little bit. And we're going to talk about, I want to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals. So that's part of what I wanted to talk to him about. But the other thing I wanted to talk to him about was, of course, his time covering UC, also covering UC when Bob Huggins was there. And all of this really started, now I qualify that by saying all of this really started when it came to Bob Huggins being called up on a Cincinnati radio talk show right out of the blue. And you know what happened? He said some things he shouldn't have said that offended a lot of people, and we started going down this path. So I think that's where we're at right now when it comes to Bob Huggins. He's starting to go down a path that really we hope that he can get himself back out of. Just as, hoping that this human being, this person, forget about all the sports stuff. Just the fact that it seems like he's getting bad advice or he's got a grudge against West Virginia or there's something going on. I don't know what. But absolutely interested in talking a little bit more about it today with some people who are, you know what? They've seen him from different angles. This isn't the first time they've seen Bob Huggins maybe in a similar situation. So we'll do that. We'll get your text in as well, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. We have Marshall baseball to talk about as well. The draft continues, and Marshall University junior pitcher Zach Atkinson drafted with the 461st pick in the 15th round of the 2023 MLB draft today by the San Diego Padres. He's going to be on the show with us tomorrow. He's coming up about 5:45. And then Earlier in the show tomorrow, Marshall University junior pitcher Patrick Copen selected 203rd overall in the 7th round. 220th pick. Corey Bird was selected 203rd in the 7th round in 2016. So this is the highest pick since Bird was drafted in 2016. So 220th pick, 7th round in the draft. Patrick Copen joins us about 5:15. So that's what we've got coming up. We'll get your text in as well, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Get your text in now. We'll go over everything with you. You can also find me on Twitter. That's right, Twitter, still a thing, right now at least, at Paul Swann. We'll talk Cincinnati Bengals football. We'll talk Bob Huggins. We'll talk about Marshall baseball as well. All that's coming up on this edition of The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Welcome back to the Tuesday edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. We got to go big time now here. We're stepping up in guest quality. Joining us on the program now, he is the sports columnist at the Cincinnati Enquirer. You can also read his work on Cincinnati.com. He has covered UC basketball for the now defunct Cincinnati Post. He did that from 2001 to 2004. Those are the Bob Huggins years. And if Bob Huggins was still there, maybe the Post would still be there. He is a friend of the program, Jason Williams. You know, it's Huggins' fault, because if he was still there, maybe the Post would still be there. What do you think?
Oh, I don't know about that. As you and I just talked about, it's a little challenging in the media environment these days, and certainly it's funny to think the afternoon newspaper. It's just funny to think, like, I started my career at the afternoon newspaper, and you tell people that now, it's like, what the heck was that? And I'm not that old. Like, I'm 47, so I don't know. Maybe I am old, but.
No, stop that. Stop that. I'm 51. No, stop that right now. Absolutely.
Hey, it's great to be on your show, man.
I love the fact.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I love the fact that you're in Cincinnati. You know, we've been following each other independently for years, and the fact that we know some of the same people is super cool, and that you're a big Marshall guy as well. That's the fun thing about you.
Well, I love the Herd. I love Herd football. I'm a season ticket holder, big Green member. It's funny. It's the only. I covered politics for several years for the Cincinnati Enquirer and Cincinnati.com, and I always like to pride myself on that. The only thing I'm a member of, the only thing in the whole world that I am a paying member of, is the Big Green Scholarship Foundation. I'm on the lower level, but I love Marshall. I did not go there. I went to the University of Cincinnati, but it is my connection to home. I grew up in Gallipolis, and my brother went to Marshall, and it's a special thing for he and I. He's 9 years younger than me, and he's a police officer in Columbus, and we don't get to see each other a lot because his hours are crazy, and but we connect over Marshall football, and we go to most of the home games together, and it's a special thing for us, and it's our connection back home. And man, I just love the Herd, and I'm probably into it way too much for a guy who has 2 kids and a wife and a mortgage, and I spend probably way too much time stressing about the games, and my wife gets on me when they lose because I'm in a bad mood, but it's the only team that I'm a true fan of. I love Herd football, man.
Do you get those funny looks? I know you sport the Herd gear when you're out and about. Do you get those funny looks?
No, I usually don't get, but I almost always, and I have like a little Herd sticker on my truck. But I got so much Herd gear, like it's half of my closet, and so I wear it a lot. And usually, almost every time I'm out, it's either one of 2 things. People think, oh, hey, like, are you a supporter of Mason High School? Because Mason's a big high school here where Kings Island is. And they have kind of the same M. And so people are like, oh, are you are you like a Mason supporter? I'm like, no, this is Marshall. Or it's the other way around. People will walk by or they'll see and say, go Herd, or we are Marshall, or whatever. So I just always, I find it fascinating that, Cincinnati, it's not that far away, and that, the brand is still certainly recognizable here, but I think it could be bigger here, to be honest with you. And that's not a criticism of the athletic department. I know they're doing something with the Reds here coming up. I think that's great. And I'm very supportive of Coach Huff and what he's doing to really, and Brad Smith, Christian Spears. I think they're really raising the bar, and the branding of Marshall, I think, could be much better, and I think they would say that too. And that's really the charge I think they've really taken on and are trying to grow the brand, and I think it's awesome.
Okay, I'm going to clue you in.
Yeah.
Somebody in the athletic department is listening. Somebody.
Okay.
So if you've got suggestions, now's the time. Drop them. Somebody will hear that.
Okay. Well, I just think that I still see like too many of the old logos around, and I'm probably more detail oriented than most people. I think there's a lot of, and I know it takes a lot of money to do it, but I know that there's been efforts to do it. But I think you could create this whole mixed use development around the football stadium, and I know at the new baseball stadium that's great, but that whole property on the other side of the indoor practice facility really, I think, should be an outdoor practice facility for football, and then a hotel across the street from that at the old ACF site. And I know that it's hard, and I covered business earlier in my career, and I know like cleaning up brownfields is a real challenge and very expensive, but I see a lot of potential there. I think the athletic department is really looking forward, I think, for the first time under Christian Spears in a long time. And I know that those are all things on his radar. So, but I know he's also trying to clean up. Like there's still a little bit of, like even like things like this. Like you look at the press box facade, and it's like, can you not change the signage there? Like, I mean, that helmet on the press box facade that's like a 1990s helmet, So I don't know. There's just a lot of things that can be done around the stadium. And again, I know that the new video board's coming in, and there's a lot of redoing the bathrooms. Those are all projects on the runway. I think those are all very important projects. Like I even told my brother this, like, in the big green room, like the tile by the elevator is like, that's like the logo from 1992. And, things like that to me. And again, maybe I notice these things more because just the background I have. But I think things like that and, those little touch-ups go a long way. And I know it's a daunting project for the new athletic administration and the new administration of the university, because I think Marshall was really far behind on those things. So it's like, oh, yeah, you got to get to that. Oh, yeah, there's this, there's that, there's this. And certainly I think what Marshall's doing now with the leadership it has is the baseball stadium. But to me, like, I don't, and again, like, this isn't anything, like, I couldn't tell you much about baseball or basketball or any other sport there. Like, I'm all football, and I think the landscape of college athletics is it's football, and if you're not investing in football, then it doesn't matter what else you're investing in, because football drives the bus, and I think it's only going to get more and more like that as this, I don't know, this Big Two of the SEC and the Big Ten comes along, and and everyone else is fighting for the rest of the scraps for the money that's out there. So, but I think Marshall's really moving in the right direction, carving its niche, building its brand again the way it was in the 90s and early 2000s, and I see some really positive things happening there.
So that's going to get back to the athletic department somehow, some way. So,
well, I mean, I'm just a fan, like I said, like, I don't, I mean, when I add it all up, like, I spend, several $100s over the year with tailgating and parking and, my season tickets and the low level big green. So I'm not some big, like, big-wheeled, powerful person, donor type of thing. But I do feel like, I'm more than your average diehard fan, because I could tell you pretty much the entire roster, and I study it, and I go over who's going to play where and who's not going to be there, and who's transferring in, and who we recruited, and what coaches are coming and going, and what the trends are of the herd. And I watch it very, very closely. So I would consider myself a diehard herd fan, but I'm certainly not any more important than the thousands of other diehard herd fans that pretty much show up every Saturday.
From the Cincinnati Enquirer, the sports columnist there, Jason Williams, who is a big deal, who's with me now on the program. No, I think it's cool. It's super cool that you can carry that fandom all the way from where you grew up. It's your team. You are covering sports in Cincinnati. You cover that on a daily basis, but you use Marshall sort of, okay, I'm a fan here. It's sort of like me, the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm more of a fan of the Bengals, whereas Marshall's sort of the job. For you, Cincinnati sports,
exactly.
That's the job. Marshall's the fandom, which I think is really cool. But yeah, you've got some unique perspectives as well, because I wanted to talk to you about Corey Dillon, and we're going to get into that in a second. But I know you've been following the Bob Huggins situation. You covered Bob for many years, and it all started this downhill spiral. I mean, there were some trends that maybe things weren't going well in his world, but the death spiral began in Cincinnati on Cincinnati radio.
Yeah. Yeah, and really, if you go back, several years before that, I covered. I had just left before he got in his first DUI here in Cincinnati. I had gone to Minnesota to cover baseball at that time, but I left a year before that. But I covered his heart attack, and I remember thinking, like, when he had a massive heart attack in the Pittsburgh airport, I just remember thinking, like, he really needs to make a lot of changes, and is he gonna be able to bounce back and continue to coach for many years? And certainly he did. And but I always kind of wondered, like, is he going to change some things about his lifestyle and just hard charging, basketball, and very little perspective on kind of the outside world. And I understand, like, it's sort of the life of college coaches, but I don't know. Maybe it's a little different today than it used to be, but he's still kind of operating, I think, under the way it used to be. And certainly, I think with Bob, like, he always kind of wanted to create this little fiefdom around him, and it happened here in Cincinnati. And there's still a very loyal, die-hard following that he has here. And I'll tell you, Paul, like, it's still, you'll still see it. You don't see it as much as after he left, but you'll still occasionally see, like, cars around town that have WV stickers on it and a Bearcat sticker, like, next to it or below it or whatever, above it. And, it always makes me wonder, like, was that a former, or is that someone who was upset about Bob Huggins leaving here? And, like, it's really a sad situation. And I can't say that I'm surprised by it. But I've really tried to think of this just because I cover Cincinnati sports, but I've tried to think of it, and also someone who, grew up next to West Virginia, and certainly my dad's from Cabell County, Milton. I've tried to think of it in the context of the people of West Virginia too. Like, he's somebody who fancies himself as someone who looks out for West Virginians and someone who looks out for the greater good of the state. And it's like, what are you doing, man? Like, you've made this all about you, and all those things you said and all those things that you've done over these years. And he's done a lot of good, but it's like, why are you throwing that away or risking throwing that away? I don't know. Ultimately, like, it just, the whole thing is just really weird, and yet it's not that surprising.
My guest from the Cincinnati Enquirer, a hometown boy, Jason Williams. And covered Bob Huggins for several years in Cincinnati, and of course still follows West Virginia basketball as well from afar, following the entire state. With all of his problems now and his war against West Virginia, it seems, do you think that he's ever going to be able to step foot on a basketball court again, not only in Morgantown, but maybe in Cincinnati? Because I know there will be times where you want to honor some of the teams that Bob Huggins was a part of, honor some of those accomplishments, but you really can't do it now. He's almost become toxic.
Yeah. I've thought this very thing, and I've thought about it just, again, from the local standpoint of would at least right now and trying to think out, 5 years from now or 3 years from now or whatever, like would the University of Cincinnati have some kind of reunion and want to bring him back? I just can't see it. I really can. So knowing that I can't see that for Cincinnati, I don't think I could see it for West Virginia University. And certainly what he's doing now and the fight that's going on there, it's hard to fathom seeing him ever step foot back on a basketball court or even obviously coaching. I think is done, but even like for some reunion, and I don't know, time heals things, and people, what did Bobby Knight went back to Indiana at some point in recent years, but I don't know, but I also feel like it's like, again, I can't keep going back to what are you doing? There's a lot of thoughts that are going through my head right now. And you think about Woody Hayes or Bobby Knight even, and it's like no one is bigger than the university. And that's what happened to him here in Cincinnati. He ultimately was not bigger than the university. And that's what happened in West Virginia. He's ultimately not bigger than the university. And he has an attitude that he is, or at least was, or at least it seems like he still has that attitude. And he certainly had that attitude here. I mean, he brought Cincinnati basketball back from, being really an embarrassment and built it up to being the prominent basketball program that it once was, but never won a national championship, and never to this day has won a national championship. And so if, Bobby Knight at Indiana, who won a national championship, and Woody Hayes at Ohio State, I'm not comparing the transgressions that necessarily different situations, but ultimately the bigger picture is you are not bigger than the university. And I think the West Virginia University is letting that be known now, and as well they should.
My guest covers everything in Cincinnati, and he's a big Herd fan. He is Jason Williams from the Cincinnati Enquirer. And, of course, your day job includes covering the Cincinnati Bengals. And what I originally wanted to spend a lot of time with is about the latest Corey Dillon saga. Here's another guy that seems to make it about himself a little bit more than the team, and it's Corey Dillon. I kind of felt like the other day when this started to come out and I was learning a little bit more about what his beef was, I thought, okay, I think he definitely should get proper consideration for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Talented player. You should make it, there's a case for him there. But then you wrote a column that completely turned me, the opposite direction as far as the Ring of Honor, because he's upset that it's a fan-driven vote, and you correctly pointed out that's the point of it.
Right. Well, he's upset. He went to the Athletic. Paul Daner Jr. is a friend of mine, is a reporter for the Athletic, covers the Bengals, and basically just blasted the whole process that the Bengals have created of picking their Ring of Honor. And what people need to understand is the Bengals for years dismissed their fans, and there was always the reputation of the Bengals where they don't care about their fans. Well, the Bengals are obviously different now, and one of the things that's made them different is that they created this Ring of Honor, and they allowed their season ticket holders to be the voters, which I think is really cool. And the Ring of Honor is, it's sort of like the team Hall of Fame, and they pick two players or two former players every year. They do a ceremony at a game, and then you get your name put up on a facade inside the stadium forever. And Corey Dillon apparently he knows something we don't. He was one of the nominees this year, 13 nominees. And it hasn't been announced yet, so I don't know. I don't want to assume anything. I don't know if he's been told that he did not win the voting. The voting ended in early June. But nonetheless, he thinks he deserves to be in that. And look, probably does. He's the all-time leading rusher in Bengals history. But is it just about your statistics? So if it were just about your statistics on the field, then yes, certainly I think you are a member of the Hall of Fame. But it's a popularity vote. The season ticket holders get to call the shots, and this is a different town now than when he played here. The Bengals are as popular as they've ever been. They are as beloved as they've maybe ever been in their entire history in Cincinnati. And I think it's a great thing the Bengals let their season ticket holders vote for the Ring of Honor. And whatever he wants to say about that, that's the vote, and it is a popularity contest. And so my argument was, in the language for the Ring of Honor voting, or for what gets you into the Ring of Honor, is very vague on the website Bengals.com, and it basically just says the best of the best. Well, is that best of the best on the field? Is that best of the best off the field? And so in my column last week on Cincinnati.com, I said, is that the best player at your position? Is that being a top contributor on a winning team or a winning era? Is that also being a great ambassador for the team on and off the field? Well, I think, if I were a voter, I would take all those things into consideration. And everyone who's in there right now really filled out all three of those. Well, if you're looking at Corey Dillon, you can't deny his statistics, but certainly in terms of being a great ambassador on and off the field, no. Being a top contributor on a winning team or a winning era, no. They never had a winning record in the 7 seasons here. And when you get back to the fans or the voters, I can't help but think that they're like sitting here thinking like, well, look, remember all those issues of you throwing your shoulder pads and helmet in the stands, and you demanding a trade, and you saying you so much don't want to play here that you'd rather, quote, flip burgers rather than play for the Bengals. And now you're coming out and you're blasting the process of us making the vote here. He left here. He demanded a trade, and the Bengals traded him to New England. And so when you take all that into consideration, his statistics, undeniably, if the whole thing was just about your performance on the field, then no doubt. But it's an open-ended thing, and it's left to the season ticket holders to vote for it. And I know, how fans are. Like,
yeah,
I'm a fan. I'm going to take all these things into consideration. And he's 1 for 3 in at least the criteria that I kind of laid out, and that's just my own thoughts on it. Again, it's the criteria is very vague, but I'm trying to think like a fan would think, and I think it'd be hard to put him in over a lot of other people right now. I think he'll eventually get in, but I don't know. I don't think he deserves it the way that it ended here, the way it went here, the way now he's still. It's kind of like, have you changed at all since you left here nearly 20 years ago? Well, him coming out and complaining about the process makes you wonder. Like, well, it seems like you still hate the Bengals, and you're still bitter toward the Bengals, and like, why should you then be rewarded with the Ring of Honor? Oh, because of what you did here on the field? Well, isn't it more than that? To me, it is, but I don't vote, and the fans will make their decision.
I would think if you want to get a little bit closer to that Ring of Honor, you should be a lot nicer to the people who are voting instead of trashing them, trashing the process. Yeah, you're absolutely right, because at one point I'm thinking, hey, yeah, this would be a great honor for him. He definitely statistically deserves it. And then you go back and you look at, okay, does he really deserve it the way he treats the franchise? He trashes the fans, trashes the city, also provided some embarrassing moments for the fan base, for the franchise. And this guy is complaining that he's not anywhere close to the Hall of Fame or the Ring of Honor. Yeah, I think he's got it wrong. I don't know what world he's living in, but he's similar to Bob Huggins, making it about himself.
Yeah, I mean, and also I think it's just kind of funny to think, and it's not funny, haha, but just sort of funny in the sense that, now, like, he's saying, and this is Corey Dillon saying that, like, this should be in the hands of the ownership or the front office should be making this decision on Ring of Honor. Now, wait a minute. This is the same ownership, the same people who ran the franchise 20-some years ago when he was playing here. Katie Blackburn, Mike Brown, Troy Blackburn, the same people who were at the top then are the same people at the top now. And, he constantly embarrassed them and criticized them. And constantly is not probably a little too strong, but, over the course of his career in Cincinnati, was critical of that same front office. But now you want them to make the decisions, and now you want to you want a favor from them, and yet these are the same folks that you were highly critical of and obviously ultimately demanded a trade from. And, you said you would rather flip burgers than play for them. Like, and now you want a favor from them. Like, and it's kind of like ultimately, and I think the overriding message of my column was like the Bengals organization, the fans don't owe him anything. I mean, on the flip side, I don't think he doesn't owe them anything, but it's just kind of like, just maybe not say anything at all, and it'll all work out, and you'll get in there, and you'll get honored during halftime, and get the jacket or whatever they give out, and get your name on the facade of the stadium, and maybe it would all work out in the end. But it seems really awkward now that if that were to happen, and again, we were talking about Huggins earlier, like maybe time heals, maybe 5 years from now he gets in or something in the Ring of Honor, and it's all like, people forget, especially in today's news cycle. But I don't know, it still doesn't necessarily make it right what he said.
Yeah, I don't see Corey Dillon making the Ring of Honor anytime soon. You were nominated, so if somebody was putting you up. Now you've incensed probably a core group of people who voted for you, so they're probably not going to vote for you. So forget about that. You're not going to be honored, and you're not going to be remembered. I'm sure there's not going to be pictures of Corey Dillon, all across Paycor Stadium. Got to get it right. Yeah, I got to get it right. I'm still not calling it that. The same way is, we're not going to see Bob Huggins court. We're not going to see Bob Huggins court at, anytime soon, if ever now, because how do you honor someone who is in direct conflict with you? You want to honor him, but at the same time, both of these individuals are in direct conflict with the people who would rather you maybe take a step back and let time do its thing, and then bring you back and honor you and remember you with fondness. But I don't think that's possible for either one of them. And the only good thing that's happening here now is it's great content for us, but we don't want that kind of content. We actually, I don't think anybody who really cares is giddy with joy that these things are happening right now.
No, I agree with it. I certainly think that, the whole concept of time healing everything. Well, you think like Corey Dillon's been gone from Cincinnati since they traded him for the 2004 season, so nearly 20 years. And, they haven't really heard much from him. You think, time will heal. Well, I think it would have been fine if he had not done an interview or said something to, a reporter and just kind of laid low and let the voting happen. And ultimately, I think it would have happened. And now you're kind of like, maybe time doesn't heal. And certainly you think, like, I mean, this is scorched earth stuff from, to me, from Corey Dillon, and you look at Bob Huggins, like, I mean, that is really scorched earth stuff. And it's kind of like it's going to take, I think, a long time for those wounds to heal. And certainly I think this Huggins thing could drag out for a while. And, how long is it going to drag out for? And, at the end of the day, like, I don't know. I mean, Bob Huggins doesn't. Yeah, I will say this. I don't think he's a guy who really gives a crap about getting his name on the court necessarily. So I'm not sure that that's a big deal to him. I don't know if in 5 years or 10 years from now that Bob Huggins is going to talk to a reporter and say, you know what, they haven't put my name on the court yet, and I'm really mad. I don't see him. I don't think he's that kind of guy. But again, not anything. They wouldn't surprise me if it did happen. Some reporter calls him up in 5 years, and this is all settled in the next few months, and time has passed, and some reporter calls him, and there's been no honor of him or anything in that time period, and then he says something like, "Yeah, I'm hurt by it. I think it's ridiculous, and we solved all that. Look at all the good things I did for West Virginia University. I took them to a Final Four and raised all that money for cancer research and raised all the awareness for the university and all that stuff and all the good things he did." But the crazy thing is that all that stuff right now is overshadowed by the things that have happened. Not just what happened here on the radio or what happened in Pittsburgh, but when you lump all those things together, and then what's happened in the last few days, it's just like that's some deep stuff that I think is going to take a long time for everyone to get over and be like, okay, all right, it's all good now. Time has passed, and everyone has apologized or have had their moment of, hey, we've talked it out, and we weren't real. We should have done this a little differently, and Bob says I should have done this a little differently. Maybe in time, if all those conversations happened, then I don't know, maybe. But I like Bob Huggins isn't really the kind of guy that I could see sitting there thinking about that right now. Like, well, doggone it, I'm not going to get my name on the court. Like, he just, he's not. He just, at least the Bob that I know, and I had him on my podcast. Was it last summer or summer before at the Enquirer? And he's really still the same guy that I knew from 20 years ago, and. I just don't see him sitting there. That's what he's worried about. That I'm going to get my name in the Hall of Fame or or he's in the Basketball Hall of Fame, obviously, but get a building named after me or the court named after me or the new arena someday named after me. I don't think he's really worried about that.
From the Cincinnati Enquirer, huge Herd fan as well, Jason Williams. When you coming in? Albany game? Is that where we're going to see you?
Yeah, I'll be there for that game. I'm bummed. I am so bummed. I am not going to be at the Virginia Tech game because that's going to be the University of Cincinnati's first Big 12 game against Oklahoma, and I am already very upset about that. But I'll be at most of the Herd home games this year.
Seriously, I mean, Cincinnati, Oklahoma, Marshall, Virginia Tech. Come on, really?
Trust me, like. There are a few games that I'm really down about. I just sort of put this together a couple weeks ago, and I'm really bummed about it. And I'm like, ooh, should I is there a way to get out? Like, yeah, no, I just can't. Like, it's the Bearcats' first Big 12 game. It happens to be. It's not Iowa State or Baylor. It's Oklahoma. So I got to be there for it. That's their first. Big 12. Well, it's their first Big 12 game, and it happens to be at home at Nippert Stadium. So the sports columnist of the newspaper, the daily newspaper in town, has to be at that one.
If only there was an afternoon newspaper, you guys could split that work.
Yeah, we wouldn't have a Sunday paper then, so I'd be good to go.
There you go. Absolutely. From the Cincinnati Enquirer and a huge Herd fan, and, of course, plenty of ties to bring him back home. He is Jason Williams. I'm glad we could do this. I want to do this some more. I absolutely love the fact that, we know the same people. We've been following each other for years, and we finally got a chance to do it, and we're going to do it some more, and then we can privately talk about all the people we know together. So that'll be an off-air conversation we'll have, and they'll all wonder what we're saying about him as we go to break. Thanks for doing it, man. I appreciate it. We'll do it again soon.
Thank you. I'll look. Thanks. I look forward to it. I appreciate it, and I'll look forward to your post-game call-in shows, which are always a real treat on my way home from Huntington to Cincinnati. So
okay, I
always enjoy listening to you.
I'm going to ask. I need a quick review of those since I black out sometimes after I do those because it's so if the Herd loses, you know how it goes.
Oh, yeah. It's intense taking all those calls, and you're doing it all on your own, and you do the text message thing now and the tweets, and I think you do a great job, and congratulations on being the West Virginia Sportscaster of the Year. And if people, and I didn't know this till you just told me this, but I fill in on 700 WLW here. We have a whole team of people. I just got to go in there and talk. But you do it all. You do the ads. You put the phone calls on the radio. You do the talking. You do the commercials, everything. And so I got a lot of respect for that. And I hope, I know that the listeners appreciate that about you.
If you want to write a column and we'll forward that to the boss, maybe I can get a raise here. That'd be fantastic. Just point that out, all the great things I do, and we can get that framed, and I'll get
well,
that.
You keep talking about herd football and talking about facilities and having Christian Spears on and the folks from the university talking about the improvements and all the good things that are happening with everything around football. Because to me, like I said earlier on, everything revolves around football, and you gotta keep. And I know people in Huntington and the greater area there, Southeast Ohio, appreciate it, but you got to keep the football tradition alive, and because that's 75 and the generations of fans, and my sons are 10 and 6, are going to games with me now, and it's a big deal to keep them learning about that and understanding what herd football is about, and that tradition and that just knowing where it's come from, never people don't lose sight of that, and so you play a very important role in helping people to understand that.
Too kind, very kind. Thank you. I'll get you back in
Thank
here
you.
soon. And you know what? If you're going to be in Huntington, I'm just going to say this right now. There might have to be an on-stage appearance eventually. Just keep that in mind.
I don't know about that. There's plenty of other guests you could have besides me, but certainly you're very kind, and I'm always happy to come on with you. And if I can brag about herd football anytime, I'm happy to do that.
Let's do it. We'll do it again soon. That is Jason Williams from the Cincinnati Enquirer. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back and we'll wrap this one up. It's The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
We're wrapping up today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Tomorrow is going to be a busy show. We're going to talk Charleston Dirty Birds. We have our scheduled call-in with Eden Douglas from the Dirty Birds. Get you caught up in everything that's happening with the team and the latest promotions and events, so you can enjoy some summer baseball in the capital city with the Dirty Birds. And, of course, we're going to talk Marshall baseball in between all of that. First of all, good news. Marshall University junior pitcher Zach Atkinson drafted with the 461st pick, 15th round today, so congratulations to him. And then yesterday, junior pitcher Patrick Copen selected by the Los Angeles Dodgers with the 220th pick, the 7th round. That was yesterday, so we're going to talk to both of them. We'll work Eden and all of that. That's going to be our busy show tomorrow. Stay tuned. Baseball all day tomorrow right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Speaking of baseball, we've got the All-Star Game. It's coming up tonight. 7 o'clock is going to be our air time. Did you watch the Home Run Derby yesterday? I still like the Home Run Derby better than I like the All-Star Game, but I don't know if I like the format. They sped it up, and I get it. You want to try to get this thing going. It's television friendly, but I think the spectacle of the Home Run Derby in person probably is more exciting than the way it looked on TV. I didn't like the split screening. I just felt like it was a little haphazardly produced, that broadcast. I like watching it just go out. And now it was a speed race. Swing, crack, load up again, swing, crack. I really just like the spectacle of the home run. It's a big deal when you hit a home run. When you knock one out, it's fun just to watch and enjoy it. But I didn't get that vibe yesterday. But it still looks like it's more of an in-person event that's more fun. And I'm sure the hectic pace of trying to get those things in, 3-minute time limit, you get the extra time if you can hit a couple of those past a certain range. That was cool. But at the end of the day, I don't know, if I want to just see a longer home run derby, I guess I would be cool with that. That's going to do it for this edition. Don't forget, All-Star Game coming up tonight right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I want to thank from the Cincinnati Enquirer, friend of the program, and long-standing Herd fan, Jason Williams. We appreciate him for being a part of our festivities today. Back tomorrow. We'll do it all over again. Don't forget, podcast available on Apple Podcast or wherever you get your podcast. This has been The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Have a great night, everyone.
WRBC Huntington, W227BS Huntington. This is your radio home for Pittsburgh Pirates baseball, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.